Mrs. Giuseppe, Mr. and Mrs. Regis. Morning, Angie. Angie, I'm hearing from you. Going on with you? Morning, Mano. Morning, Mother Tunapuna, Tadavia Andrews, Nicole Caesar, Patsy Edwards. Morning to all of you. Alison Haynes, Alison Samuel. Morning as well. To Oman Oga. Good morning. PNM Gemma. Morning to you. Gemma already called me to find out what is going on. She not seeing, she not hearing us. Wanted to know what was taking place. So that's the situation there, folks. As I said, if you're now joining us, we're not on air on radio as a result of the theft of copper cables. Those damn pests, continue to distress people. And this morning we are the unfortunate victims, of their callousness. So that's where we are. As I said before, the problem is being worked on as we speak, but we have no idea as to how soon it's going to be rectified and how soon we will be back on the radio waves. So in the interim, we are just available on Facebook and YouTube. Thank God for social media. Right? Morning, Jenny. I know Jenny wanted to touch on a topic this morning, but as I said, we can't. We don't have the facility to take calls because of that problem. So, yeah. Right, so it is now 11:30, and but I will still be stopping at 1 in given the fact that we are unable to take calls. Yeah, so, and of course that kind of throws me off in terms of the substantive topic that I wanted to touch on. So I will address instead, and I'll leave that topic perhaps for Tuesday or Thursday, but I will address instead some of the nonsense that I heard yesterday. On that program, both from callers and from hosts as well. As I told you all before, I really don't listen to that, because it's only my tolerance level for nonsense and for ignorance is at an all-time low. And nothing annoys me more than to be listening to people who sharing what they consider to be factual information without doing any sort of research and just coming and talking off of the top of your head, or because of some clip or some post that you see some other ignoramus put up, and you want to run with that because your mental frequency is tuned into propaganda and foolishness, right? And rather than do your research to verify what it is that you see or hear in these posts, you come on air to talk that trash. And then, of course, people call me because they're furious with the nonsense that they're hearing, asking me if I'm listening because they want me to address it. I don't have the time to listen, but every time I get a call, I say, okay, it's bad. I need to listen, right? But before I go there, I cannot. It would be remiss of me if I didn't speak to or just touch quickly on the headline in today's Sunday Express. Entitled, Cops Quiz MP Lee. Probe into purchase of $2.3 million Mercedes-Benz. Did 1.4 million tax exemptions benefit a UNC financier? And the article says Deputy Political Leader of the UNC, David Lee, has been questioned by police in connection with the purchase of a $2.3 million Mercedes-Benz and whether the 1.4 million in tax exemptions derived may have benefited a party financier. Lee, who is also the Pointe-à-Pierre Member of Parliament, was questioned by detectives of the FIB, the Financial Investigation Branch of the TNT Police Service, last week, Monday, in connection with the purchase of the Mercedes-Benz AMG 63 valued at $2,344,752.16. The interview took place at the FIB's waterfront office, Ryson Road, Port of Spain. Sunday Express understands the investigation surrounding Lee involves his parliamentary privilege of exemption from paying taxes on the purchase of a vehicle. Lee was granted exemptions in the sum of $1,416,292.65 for the purchase of the Benz. The exemption was granted on May 23, 2019 and included $293,094.02 in VAT, $298,650 in motor vehicle tax, and $824,548.63 in customs duty. The police probe is to determine whether Lee used the exemptions to benefit a South-based businessman and a UNC financier, and whether Lee was ever even in possession of the vehicle. The businessman, who is also a licensed firearms dealer, is expected back in the country later this week when he will be interviewed by police. Last week, Right, so it says all members of parliament are exempt from paying motor vehicle tax, VAT and customs duties on new or used vehicles imported every 2 years under the SRC. However, the vehicle is not to be sold during the 2-year period, or half of the taxes are to be repaid. Several efforts by the Sunday Express via calls and WhatsApp messages to obtain a response from Lee to various questions on the issue on August 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th were all unsuccessful. And last Monday, the Sunday Express also asked UNC Public Relations Officer Dr. Kirk Mehu via WhatsApp to confirm whether Lee had been questioned by the police, but there was no response. Not surprised that there was no response. But if it was a member of the PNM, well, boy, the Sunday morning waste of time press conference would have dealt with that, right? And they would have been calling on the MP to make a statement and calling on the Prime Minister to speak to the issue and all of that. But here it is that we have David Lee is being questioned, and this is not the first time that that matter had come up with respect to the possibility of him having purchased the vehicle on behalf of the southern businessman for whatever inducements as the case may be. But you know, the members of the literati had nothing to say about that. You think any of them will call the radio station and talk about it and call on David Lee to make a statement or chant David Lee must go? No, they ain't gonna do that. They want to talk about everything else. They want to talk about the state of crime in the country and how many people are unemployed and all of that. But here it is that you have a possible situation where one of their members of parliament may be guilty of misconduct in public office and could be facing a possible charge. But I bet you ain't gonna see kick out the PNM talk about that on Facebook. You ain't see none of them come and talk about that. Bunch of damn hypocrites. Anyway, I want to play something before I get into addressing some of that nonsense I heard yesterday, right? As we prepare to celebrate the 60th anniversary of independence, you know, we have a lot of people in the country who are saying we have nothing to, what are we celebrating? Are we celebrating high crime? Are we celebrating the loss of jobs and bad roads and so on? And Trinidad is not a real place and we have nothing to celebrate. But some of them want to call themselves patriots, right? Let me just play this clip. I hope it plays quickly. From a Jamaican national who lives in Trinidad, and she decided to do a Facebook Live, expressing her appreciation for the opportunity to live in Trinidad and Tobago, and just listing a few of the things that she loves about Trinidad and Tobago, and also highlighting some of the shortcomings of her own country as compared to TNT. So it takes a foreigner to come here and tell us how much she enjoys living here, as opposed to some of these ungrateful wretches who call themselves TNT citizens and every day have nothing good to say about the country, but only washing them out on the country every time they have an opportunity. I hope it plays, because as I said, we're having issues with the phone line. So let me see what happened in here. 691.
And planting is superior. Absolutely love a chow. Give me a mango chow, a pint, like give me any chow and I'm there. Like a June plum chow, give it to me. I should say Plum City. I love Trinidad KFC, y'all. I'm not a big fan of KFC, but like when I went to Trinidad, I was like, okay, cool, this is it. I don't know what I'm putting in the KFC in Trinidad, but whatever they put in there, it is it. Absolutely love Trinidad Carnival. Don't have to say that. Like, absolutely love soca. There is something about soca. Can you feel the love? Y'all, electricity. Let me tell you something that I love about Trinidad. That I can turn on my AC, I can wash my clothes, and I don't have to worry and fret about the electricity bill. Did you know the electricity bill comes every other month? Like, the bill don't come every month. So when I'm in Jamaica, I feel like I have to turn off light. Literally, as soon as I get home, I turn on light. My mother is behind me. I turn off light. I can't live like that. So big up to oil and gas in Trinidad, because y'all allowing me to live my best life. Also, when I did have a car, I would fill up like every Sunday evening, because I kind of like adulting and starting the week with a full tank of gas, yeah. And it literally would cost me not more than 10, not even 10, like $7 US to like top up my gas. Like, how insane is that? Then the $50 flights to Tobago. Like, I pay a $50 US to go to Tobago and just chill out and enjoy myself. I love that Trinidad feels so different from Tobago. I feel like I'm actually going to a different country. The ease of getting together. This is something I talk about a lot. So I'll wake up on a Saturday morning and message my friend group in Trinidad and be like, yo, let's go brunch now. Who feeling for like a breakfast? And within 90 minutes, 2 hours max, at least 5 or 6 of us is having lunch or brunch or whatever. In Jamaica, I could never. Like, I could never wake up one Saturday morning and be like, hey guys, let's go and do this. It's always like, no, it's far, no. Also, if I'm going to country, I don't have to like put together gas money. Absolutely love that. Yeah, so there are a lot of things that I love about living in Trinidad. Absolutely love the people. I find that the people are really nice. I love that I can get up and go run the savannah and I don't feel like, somebody going to come and kill me. Like, there's that safety aspect that I do like. And yeah, the ease of living in Trinidad definitely is there.
Right. As a Jamaican, right, sharing this information with us, telling us what she loves about Trinidad. But same cannot be said for some of our Trinidad and Tobago citizens, as we, and Jamaica also celebrating their 60th anniversary of independence as well. But we gripe in 7.5 million. We could have paved road and build school and buy school books. Anyway, yeah, but it takes a foreigner to help us to appreciate what it is we have. Anyway, where is this thing? Right. See here. Okay. Right. So if you're just joining us, folks, I would have announced earlier on that we are not on air on the radio waves on account of the fact that vandals would have hit the transmitter, our transmitter, and stealing the copper cables. So unfortunately, we are off air on radio, but we are on the social media platforms of Facebook and YouTube. So that's why you've not been hearing us all morning on radio. The problem is being addressed as we speak. Unfortunately, we don't know how soon the problem is going to be rectified. It will all depend on the extent of damage that was done. So as a result of that, we're only on the social media platforms this morning, and we cannot take calls because that too has also been impacted because we can't transmit the calls through the radio. Yeah, so unfortunately that's where we are today, but hopefully we would be able to have that problem rectified probably by the end of the day maybe, and we can resume normal transmission. So yeah, so you have to tune into us on the social media platforms this morning. Good morning to some of the folks on social media. Marva James, good morning. Teresa Conliffe, morning to you as well. Joycelyn Smallwhite, Anne-Marie Montique, morning. Jennifer Ashby Oakley, good morning to you, Jennifer, and a belated birthday greetings to you as well. I saw that you would have celebrated your birthday recently, and I trust that it was an enjoyable one. Good morning to Apollonia's Pit, or Apollina's Pit, sorry. Gloria James, and the others who are on. Matt Ramnath, good morning to you. Kwame Amuzu, Veronica George, Roger Benito. Nobody is saying to ignore crime, Bevan George. It's very difficult to ignore the crime, eh? Let's just focus on crime now and ignore everything else, because nothing good happening in the country, right? There's only crime, that's all. Nothing good happening. Sometimes Anyway, so yesterday, as I said, some folks called me to ask me if I was listening to the afternoon program, which I don't listen to, as I told you, because my tolerance level for that, for the amount of nonsense that I hear there is I have zero tolerance for that. It upsets me when people come every week claiming that you're coming to educate and inform, and you're doing the exact opposite, that you're raising topics of which you know precious little or nothing about, other than the propaganda that you saw and read on social media. Right? And rather than do your research to confirm the nonsense that is posted in some of these memes and so on, you decide to run on the air and raise it as a topic we can review, right? Don't know what you're talking about. Then you invite callers to call in and to compound the stupidity, talking trash, and stating things that they know nothing about, right? and then you sit, both of you sit down like two wooden judges in a Ramgood session, because to be honest, you don't know your ARSE from your elbow when it comes to the topics that you're discussing, but you want to attack people and call them hypocrites when they call in with the facts. But boy, you know, I feel it for yesterday, you know. I mean, I could not believe that you raise a topic, you don't know nothing about it, right? You're pushing propaganda. A man calls in to correct a previous caller who called in and talked up and spoke a pack of nonsense. You want to attack the man and call him a hypocrite because the other issue that you raised, he told you he doesn't have information on that. He called and he gave you the information on what he knows. You vexed, I don't want to hear you, you're a hypocrite. And why is the man a hypocrite? If you raise a topic, you continue to claim every week that you're coming to educate and inform. The responsibility is yours to educate and inform, not the callers. You're supposed to be educating and informing the caller on the topic that you raised. So when a man calls in to correct you or to give you information which you do not have, right? You vex because he didn't give you information on the other topic. And so, anyway, so let me address that issue, right? Let's get to it. So they spoke yesterday about Victoria Keys and the Diego Martin interchange. So the claim was by one that the interchange costing $500 million. $500 million. Where you get that information from? Well, another misleader. So misleader number one is the leader of the opposition. Misleader number two is one Philip Edward Alexander, the political leader of the People's Empowerment Party, the PEP, who put in a post every day on social media. And when you read some of these posts, you cannot believe that this man actually is auditioning to be the next prime minister of this country. I saw somebody share a post from this clown, this counterfeit 1%er, stating, you know, criticizing and chastising the government for the state of the country, but more so black people and how black people in the country suffering under the PNM administration, and that you have 30,000 black youth who are languishing in the nation's prisons. And when I saw that, I said 30,000 black youths languishing in the nation's prisons. We have, what, 3 prisons in this country? The Royal Jail on Frederick Street, the Golden Grove Prison, the maximum security prison up in by Piaco there. We have the Carrera Prison, and then we have YTC, and then we have, I don't know, the detention center that they paid $330 million for, the old Massey warehouse that they converted into a prison during the state of emergency that they had in 2011, where they were locking up the same young black youth left, right, and center, based on the instruction of the then Attorney General. Lock them up and we will find evidence to charge them later. So 30,000, he claims, 30,000 disadvantaged black youth languishing on remand. Really? The total prison population in Trinidad and Tobago is less than 5,000. But this clown, this counterfeit 1%er, is telling you that 30,000 black youth, where does he get this information from? Probably from the same place the monkey put the nuts. That's the only place he could have pulled that information from. The last time he did an interview on TV6 and Fazir Mohammed, the host, had to pull him up. Where do you get these statistics? Where you pull them out from? Right? So he had to concede that he had no evidence whatsoever to support the figures that he was promoting. And he continues to do that stupidness. But what is even more concerning is that you have citizens in this country who cannot discern simply by looking at that post and discern, look, this man talking trash. But you're so enamored by what it is that he posts up because you love propaganda that you will share this nonsense. So whenever I see it, because I'm part of this group called, I can't remember the name of it. One is called Bull Pistol. And the other one is, I think, Real Chinese Discussing Real Issues. It's a closed group. So whenever I see they post these things inside there, I do not hesitate to pull them up on it. There's one who goes by the name Harry Hunt. Another clown who all the time feels the need to share everything from Philip Alexander. Most of the time, propaganda. Do your research now. But coming back to yesterday, right? Again, any and every opportunity that they get to try and harangue this government and make the government look bad, they want to run with it. Not so long ago, Gary Aboud of Fishermen and Friends of the Sea went to speak about that same project that's taken place down there in Diego Martin, right? Down by Powder Magazine as you enter Diego Martin opposite Westmall. Gary Aboud, he went down there and he did a video and he made a claim that the government had given the land to the Chinese because it's Chinese contractors working on the project. Not just Chinese contractors, but I think they're the lead contractors. If it's China, Jiangsu, or CG, the railway, one of those Chinese contractors working down there, right? He did a live and he claimed that the government had sold the land to the Chinese and whatnot, and they give away the land to the Chinese. And I had to come here and pull him up and expose him for the liar that he is, right? He also made a claim in that video that the government had sold the pitch lake to the Chinese. And to corroborate his claim, he put up an article from 2013 that spoke to the People's Partnership leasing. Some arrangement they had entered into, some 3-year arrangement for Lake Asphalt to provide pitch to China. Right? Now, you put up that headline, 2013, and using that to substantiate your claim that this administration under Keith Rowley had sold or leased the pitch lake to the Chinese. That is the extent to which these nastiness on them go into to try and discredit this government. But let me deal with that issue there. So, Kingsley called in to comment on the topic about the interchange and the claim that they are making, and I suppose Philip Alexander too, is that the government is building the interchange in order to facilitate the residents of Victoria Keys, right? That is only rich people living in Victoria Keys. And because in order for you to, if you're coming out of Diego Martin and you want to go back west to head down to West Moorings or Carnage, you have to go all the way down to the start of Mukarapa Road there, turn by the lights to come around by Peaks and head back down, right? Or the alternative, for persons who live further down from Victoria Keys, before the lights, you have to turn by the lights there, go down by 4 roads, and then you proceed down to the back. I don't know the name of that road, forgive me. And the back there by St. Finbar's Church, going around the back by St. Anthony's College there, and then you come and you turn left or right as the case may be. If you want to go to West Mall, you would head east, head back up to the lights. So if it is that you're heading down to the Kana and Shagraramas area, you turn right and you head down there. So it's really an inconvenience. And it's not just an inconvenience for the people who live in Victoria Keys, because it's also an inconvenience for the people who live in Victoria Gardens and who live further down Diego Martin as well. Of course, if you live further inside, you can always come up on the Diego Martin Marine Road and you turn by the lights by the gas station there by 4 roads and head down in the back by St. Finbar's there, right? So Kingsley calls to comment on the matter. I don't want to play that yet. And he makes the claim that it was the UNC under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the People's Partnership, that built Victoria Keys for the poor people, right? For the poor people of Laventille and wherever else. And then when Keith Rowley came in 2015, that he decided to, he and his administration decided to convert the apartments to facilitate their friends, family, and financiers, right? And put the apartments for sale on the open market so that their friends, family, and financiers could purchase it at the expense of the poor people, because it's a project under the HDC. And he went on to chastise Dr. Rowley for doing that, and also called on Dr. Rowley to state whether or not the 2 MPs from Tobago, Ayanna Webster Roy and Shamfa Kojo, whether or not they live there, and whether or not the son of somebody, can't remember who it is he say, living inside there as well, because you have to be a millionaire to live in those apartments. So let me correct the record. It was not the People's Partnership. And I shouldn't even have to correct the record, because I know at least the PNM listeners and some of our UNC listeners too, you all know the truth, that it was in fact the Manning administration that built Victoria Keys for the poor people, the same poor people that Kingsley spoke about. Because lower down, there's another housing development by the police station there, just before 4 roads there. Yeah, that too. That was an extension too. So you had Victoria Keys and that other apartment building just by the police station. Those were given out. Those were given out to the poor people. Or let me not say poor people. The low income citizens, because HDC, the mandate of the Housing Development Corporation, HDC, is to build housing for low income citizens, right? Low income. When the People's Partnership came in 2010, I don't know if the mindset was that, nah, we can't give that as low income housing, because you have a beautiful view of the ocean. From there, it is very close to West Mall. Then you have Starlight Shopping Plaza right there. So really and truly, if you want to go to the mall or wherever, you just step out, you walk outside, and everything is within walking distance. You want to go to the bank, you have First Citizens Bank right wrong by the big tree there. So yeah, that's too good for poor people. That's too good for low-income earners. We need to give that to the rightest people. So what did they do? They converted, as Barataria said, converted three-bedroom apartments into two-bedroom apartments. They converted two-bedroom apartments into one-bedroom apartments, right? Created luxury apartments, added a swimming pool, tennis court, multiple stories of covered parking. They put in clubhouse, they put in gym. Yes, each of the buildings, or each of the towers has a lobby with a receptionist, security guard, and so on. They put in swipe card security at the gates, so there is an entrance for the residents. When you come in, you swipe your card, the barrier opens and you drive in, and everybody is designated their own personal parking spot. And then you head to the building. You as the resident, you don't need to go through the front, to the lobby. So there's a back door that you go through, you swipe your card, and then you proceed, the door opens and you proceed, and there's the elevators there, and you go in. Now, I'm familiar with the buildings because my sister, who died recently, at the time of her passing, that's where she was living. So I would have visited the building several times. So I'm aware of how the building is, or the buildings are. Very, very nice development. The apartments there start at $1.4 million for a one-bedroom, $1.8 million for two-bedroom and bedrooms, and then it goes up. There's a penthouse apartment that is currently valued at, I believe, $4.5 million. Yeah? Penthouse apartment, right? Apparently, Kingsley want to give that to low-income earners. I just asking the question because that's what I got from him. Now, I'm not criticizing you personally, Kingsley, if you're listening, but I'm chastising your contribution because, again, I have a problem with when people come on the airwaves and make statements that are factually inaccurate. Inaccurate. If it is you're going to comment, do your research before you come on the radio station and try to lambaste the government based on falsehoods. But then again, that is what the UNC does. So I continue. So they put in all of these facilities there. And they knew who the target market was for these buildings. So what did they do? They increased the income ceiling to qualify for an HDC house to $45,000 a month. Meaning that if you earn $45,000 a month or less, you would be able to qualify for an HDC home, despite the fact that HDC's mandate was to construct low-income housing. Now, I'm not too sure what the figure was before, but I know when this administration came in, they reduced it from that 45,000 back down to, I think it was 20,000 or something like that, or less than that. But that's what the People's Partnership did, because they know they were targeting the lawyers and the doctor friend and the business owner friend who have money and want to buy a starter home or a starter apartment for the children and so on. That is what they wanted to do. So it was the People's Partnership that did that, Kingsley, not Keith Rowley. When Keith Rowley and his administration came in, they pointed out the fact that when evaluation was done based on the modifications that the People's Partnership made to the apartments at Victoria Keys, that it did not satisfy HGC's mandate of low-income housing. Because with all of those extra facilities that they put in there, the gym, the swimming pool, the clubhouse, the tennis court, the covered parking, and all of these different things, that would increase the maintenance cost of these apartments. And therefore, you would need to have a maintenance fee that has to be paid to facilitate these things. Otherwise, it would be an additional cost for the HDC, right? So Dr. Rowley indicated when he came in at the launch, or when they cut the ribbon for the opening of commissioning of that apartment, those apartments, that the government would keep a few of the apartments for senior government officials. And when I say senior government officials, I'm not talking about ministers here. Talking about senior public officials, the likes of maybe permanent secretaries or directors, judges, or whatever as the case may be, depending on circumstance, right? So the government would keep a few, and the rest, they would put it on the open market. So as I said, one bedroom starting at 1.4 million, two bedrooms 1.8, and then the figure goes up accordingly. So Kingsley was making an issue about who live in there, and he want to know if this one son have an apartment there. And Ayanna Webster Roy and Shamfa Kojo, yes, they live there. But not just them. Nigel De Freitas, the former Vice President of the Senate, now Minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, he also lives there as well. Kingsley. Why? because under the terms and conditions of their remuneration packages based on the positions that they hold, and this is based on what the Salaries Review Commission recommended. You know, the Salaries Review Commission, that body that is responsible for establishing the pay packet or the compensation packet for senior public officials, including government ministers, members of parliament. It states that they can either receive a housing allowance or, if possible, if the state can provide them with accommodation, housing accommodation, in lieu of the housing allowance, by virtue of the fact that they live in Tobago, they are from Tobago, but given the fact that they are ministers of government, they are expected to reside in Trinidad because there is no government ministry that is resident in Tobago. All government ministries, headquarters are resident in Port of Spain, in Trinidad, mostly. Well, we have the Ministry of Agriculture that's now in Central, but most of the other ministries are located in Port of Spain. So therefore, Shamfa Kojo, Ayanna Webster Roy, and Nigel De Freitas, you certainly don't expect them to hop a plane every morning, to come to Trinidad, do their work, and then hop a plane to go back to Tobago every evening. It don't make sense. So the Salaries Review Commission allows for them to get either housing allowance or, where possible, state-sponsored accommodation. If they take the state-sponsored accommodation, they will not receive the housing allowance. You understand? Unlike what took place last time with President Carmona. But that's a story for another time. So yes, they live there. But did you ask that question? Or were you so concerned between 2010 to 2015 when Delmon Baker and Vanilla Allen Toppin, because in the same circumstance, they being from Tobago and being ministers in Trinidad and Tobago, the representatives for the two Tobago seats, were living at Federation Park Villas, which is government owned. So as you enter into Federation Park, from Rapsy Street, as you swing into Federation Park at the corner of Jamaica Boulevard there, and just before Dominica Avenue, on the left-hand side, there are some villas there that I think was constructed by the Manning administration. Delmon Baker and Vanilla Allen Toppin used to live there. But you also had Wade Mark, it was reported, Annan Ram Logan, and other members of the People's Partnership government who live in Trinidad were also afforded apartments or townhouses in Federation Villas. I believe it was, I saw an article which claimed that Annan Ram Logan would have had two. Notwithstanding the fact that when he became Attorney General, he had purchased a townhouse in the Greens in Maraval there, which is at the entrance of, what's that park, boy? Fairways. And some other properties within that Maraval area. And when he was asked where he got the money all of a sudden to purchase this, he said, well, you know, the government had been owing me several briefs before I came into office, and now that I came in, all of a sudden, all of these briefs have been paid. Notwithstanding the fact that the ministry responsible for paying these briefs is the ministry for which he was in charge, Office of the Attorney General. What a coincidence. All of a sudden, all the briefs owed to you by the state for how many donkey months or years was suddenly paid, as we say, in one drop. Yeah? Okay. But we weren't complaining about that. We didn't have a problem with them being in Federation Villas, right? Well, those villas in Federation Park there, they were put up by the HGC or whoever it is some time ago for sale to the members of the general public. So if it is you're interested, because remember when in 2012, when Keyshawn Walcott won the gold medal, they had offered him one of those townhouses there, and I think he had refused that. Then they ended up going to Valsain, where he now lives, and they would have given him a house there, and then they said the house was too small. So they took two HGC units, combined it, and gave that to him. But all your memory short. Yeah? Your memory short. So the claim is that the government is only building Victoria Keys, or the interchange, the Diego Martin interchange, to facilitate the residents of Victoria Keys. I'm going to play something else for you. But again, two hosts, not one, two. All they raise topic. Don't know nothing about the topic all they raise. When people call in to give all the information now, you're vexed because they only give information on one and not two. Let me play this.
Housing development is now to be sold on the open market to offset debt. He said this luxury housing complex sits in a fashionable address in Diego Martin, but was achieved under a public sector project. The Prime Minister said under the last government, the HDC moved away from its mandate to provide affordable housing.
Changing the finishing and adding certain facilities and so on and so on. And bringing this property to the level of any other in the country, that we moved outside of the ability of the state to make these units available to persons who are not able to face the normal market. It would have been inconceivable in the housing distribution program for lower income and lower middle income persons to make properties available at the cost of $3 and $4 million. So the state was forced to sell these units on the open market.
Meanwhile, Housing Minister Randall Mitchell blamed the excesses of the People's Partnership government, which changed the design of the already completed project.
A new philosophy was adopted by that government, and the HDC was instructed to modify the scope, to enlarge the apartments to include a multi-storied car park, pool, clubhouse, tennis court, etc. A project that was supposed to have cost just over $250 million is now expected to cost over $652 million when all is accounted for.
I hope you heard that, Kingsley. A project that was supposed to cost $250 million, going to cost over $600 million. Yeah? We ain't know about that. But is the PNM change it up? Because Dr. Rowley don't want poor people or people from Laventille and so on to live on that side. Yeah? I continue. So, I'll pause this here. All right, great. Right, so I know I understand that the Tobago representatives, that they no longer reside there. Great. So, yeah. So Kingsley, to answer your question, no, they no longer live there, right? But that was a facility that was afforded them previously, and they no longer avail themselves of it. So your question has been answered. But given the fact that those apartments were put up for sale to the open public, anybody can purchase it once you can afford it. So if you have 1.4 or 1.8 million or how much ever based on the valuation that was done on how much these apartments should go for, well then feel free. A number of the private real estate companies in Trinidad are representatives for that development, so you could get one. So it doesn't matter. So the question he was asking us, if somebody's son living there, I can't remember who it is. Yeah, it's nothing is wrong with that. If you could afford one to Kingsley, you could go and buy one. Yeah, if you can get a mortgage for one of those, and there are several apartments available, because I could tell you the floor on which my sister was living, which was the 3rd floor in Tower 1. On her floor, I think it was just her and one other person was living there. Most of the other apartments were vacant. Yeah? So if you can afford it, help yourself. And anybody else from the literati too, who have questions on that. So Kamala wanted you all to populate those apartments. So feel free. Once you could afford it, no problem. You should go and buy it. But coming back again to the issue of the interchange. The Diego Martin interchange. So I heard one of the hosts said costing $500 million. Kingsley called in and say he heard it costing over $1 billion. Ask either one of them to tell you where they got that information from, and can they provide facts as to the cost that they claim. They can't tell you. Right? They can't tell you. But poor Barataria, they want to kill Barataria because he tell them, I have no information on that. And so you have information on the apartments, but you don't have information on the interchange. Why should he have information on it? This issue with respect to the apartments was public. I just played a clip for you, so it was on the news. There was no need for there to be any sort of big hullabaloo about the interchange, because you know what? It's not mired in corruption, couture, and bacchanal. It's not. So the media are not interested in that. But if it is, you heard some kind of bacchanal with some kickback or something with some minister, oh yes, it would have make front page. But they're not interested in providing any information. That is not a story. There is no there. And? Well, let me give you all the information with respect to the cost, right? I'll go in there. Let me get it here. Right. This is an article, and all you need to do to get the information is just go and Google it, Google it. Or maybe if you all used to listen to the evening news, you would have known where the money coming from to pay for that. So let me read this for you. This is an article in the Newsday dated Saturday the 4th of July 2020, entitled Sinanan, Diego Martin Overpass a quote-unquote free project. Minister of Works and Transport Rohan Sinanan has described the construction of the Diego Martin Overpass as a quote-unquote free project for the country. This is because money from the $190 million project was taken from the $275 million saved from the recently constructed Curep interchange. The construction of the Diego Martin overpass will begin this month, starting with the designs and upgraded drainage works, and the 4-lane overpass is expected to be completed by December next year. At the commissioning ceremony for the Curep interchange 2 weeks ago, Sinanan said the original budget was $500 million, but the final cost for the interchange under the PNM was $221 million. He said by the end of September, tenders will go out for the construction of 2 more interchanges heading west. A down payment for those interchange will also come from the savings in the Curep interchange project. When you have savings like that, the small man benefits because he is getting a lot more. Sinanan said he's also planning to take a proposal before the cabinet to use the water taxis along the west during the weekends, and he also spoke of plans to convert the road to the Chagaramas Peninsula into 3 lanes to ease up traffic build-up. He was speaking at a sod-turning ceremony for the Diego Martin overpass and the Diego Martin Administrative Complex on Thursday afternoon, and the West Park Savannah was also commissioned at the event. So it's not just an interchange that is currently taking place down there. The administrative complex for the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, which will become their new headquarters, is also being constructed there. The West Park Savannah is also being constructed there. So it's multiple projects taking place down there. So it's not just an interchange that is being built to benefit the friends, family, and financiers of the PNM who live in Victoria Keys. But for your bacchanalists, that is what it is. But let me read something further for you. I hope Kingsley listening. I hope you don't feel that beating up on you. But you see, when all you come with all your propaganda and chop it talk, I will address it. Right, where is it? So, the claim is that the PNM decided to build that interchange to benefit their friends, right? Let me read this article for you. Diego Martin Highway to be extended. This is an article dated July 20th, 2012. Let me repeat that date. July 20th, 2012. Who was the Prime Minister on July 20th, 2012? Which party was in government July 20th, 2012? Ask a silly question, in the words of Peter Minshall. Cabinet has decided to extend the Diego Martin Highway from Wendy Fitzwilliam Boulevard to the Diego Martin Main Road. Cabinet has also agreed to construct a vehicular overpass in the vicinity of Powder Magazine in Cocorite. Whose cabinet? Not Keith Rowley's, because on July 20th, 2012, Keith Rowley wasn't the Prime Minister and the PNM wasn't in power. Let me read that for you again. Cabinet has also agreed to construct a vehicular overpass in the vicinity of Powder Magazine in Cocorite. This was confirmed by the Works and Infrastructure Minister, Mr. Emmanuel George, during Thursday's post-cabinet briefing. Not Works and Transport Minister Rohan Sinanan. Emmanuel George Kingsley. So since 2012, the UNC recognized the need to build a vehicular overpass where one is being constructed now. Was that for their rich friends, family, and financiers for whom they made changes to Victoria Keys and increased the ceiling, the income ceiling for HDC to $85,000 to $45,000, so that they could qualify to get apartments there under HDC, Kingsley? Is that the case, or is only the PNM? The motive change is the PNM. That wasn't the motive of the UNC for building the overpass there. But you all want to come on the radio and talk nonsense. But there are those of us who are not intellectually lazy and are not afraid to do the research to come and expose the foolishness that you all talk on radio. Every time you all want to attack the government, check all yourself. The UNC has no moral authority to accuse this government of anything. So the interchange is being constructed based on the savings from the Curep interchange that the People's Partnership told us would cost $503 million. This administration came in and did it for $221. So the $280-some odd million that was saved, if this government is so corrupt and the PNM is so corrupt as you all claim, they could have thieved that $280-something million. All they had to do was to say, well, look, the People's Partnership say 503. We will find a contractor who will do it for 221, and we will share up the 280 some odd million. With 23 members of cabinet, each member of cabinet could have gotten over $12 million in kickbacks. $12 million each if they wanted to thief. If the PNM so corrupt and so like money, just one project alone could have made all of them millionaires overnight. But instead, what was the money used for? To build the interchange in Diego Martin, and the rest of money will be made as down payments for 2 other interchanges. I believe Mr. Sinanan said the Mokoya interchange and the UE interchange. That is governance PNM style. So the interchange in Curep is finished, working very well, at a cost of 221 million, but the PP say 503. So if you, the right-thinking citizens of this country, had put God out of your collective thoughts and put them back into power in 2015, it would have cost 503 million, and probably even more than that with cost overruns. But instead, you're getting 2 interchanges and down payments on 2 more. But we don't want to do the research. We want to run up on the radio station. I hear it costing 500 million, and it's 1 billion I hear it costing. Really? Where you hear that? Who gave you that information? But you ain't know that. But you want to kill poor Barataria for saying that. And that making sense, huh? A bunch of jokers. Let me continue with this. Give me 1 second here. Right. So just a little bit more information on that interchange. Construction works on phase 1 of the Diego Martin vehicular overpass and related road improvements projects has begun. The government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, through the Ministry of Works and Transport, will improve the road infrastructure in the vicinity of Western Main Road, the Diego Martin Highway intersection. Project update phase 1 piling on the west abutment is in progress. Works officially started on Monday, 22nd March 2021. Piling works are expected to be completed in 1 week, and the overall duration of the project is approximately 18 months. Scope of works for the Diego Martin vehicular overpass entails construction of a vehicular overpass with the necessary connector roads and ramps, road improvements to the intersection of Western Main Road and Columbus Boulevard, new sidewalks and enhanced safety features, drainage improvements, construction of new culverts, replacing of existing culverts, cleaning of drains, new pavement construction and all necessary earthworks, bridge construction, geotechnical works, drainage, lighting, barriers, and landscaping. When the project is completed, it will provide the following benefits to residents and surrounding communities. Improved road safety in the area along the Diego Martin Highway, Western Main Road intersection. Improve access to the area in light of the proposed development in the vicinity. Alleviated congestion in the area. Alleviated flooding and improved drainage in the area. Eliminated motor vehicle and pedestrian conflicts. Improved transportation infrastructure and connectivity between Port of Spain and the Northwestern Peninsula region. That's what it was for, Kingsley. Not to benefit the residents of Victoria Keys. And it's interesting that right after Victoria Keys, right next door to Victoria Keys, there's some apartments right there, Powder Magazine, low-income housing, by the community center there. So apparently those persons aren't affected by the same issues that their next-door neighbors who live in Victoria Keys are affected by. No, it have a magic underground tunnel that they take, that they could use to go back to the west. So they are not affected. So this overpass will not, this interchange is not going to benefit them. No, only the residents of Victoria Keys will benefit from that. And this is the type of propaganda. But you see, the good thing about it is that when you all come on radio and talk that janjat, the PNM will come and debunk it and continue. And all it will simply do is to erode the credibility of the United National Congress and their activists, their spokesmen and women, which they seem to be losing. Because I was listening to another frequency a couple days ago, and this gentleman from Beetham, Anderson Wilson, who I think is Shuma Wilson's brother, you know, he called in to make a contribution on the underground report. And right after he was done, Anna Munsami, who goes by the name Miss Santa Cruz, well, boy, she called in and take a ton in the tail. She called him what, that drunk from Beetham. Because I think now he's now aligned to the PDP, no longer singing the praises of Kamala, it seems. So Miss Santa Cruz vexed too bad, because just when she thought, hey, yeah, that is the linchpin that is going to get us Beetham. I'm going to get us Sealats. No more. You see? Yesterday was yesterday and today was today. She went from praising him in the past. Now he's the worst thing ever. That drunk from Beetham. That drunk from Sealats. Miss Santa Cruz called him that, not me. Eh? And she didn't care that she said it. That's how the UNC treats you. Yeah? When you fall out with them. That's why they called Vassan Bharat. The leader called Vassan Bharat a what? A knife and fork Indian. So when I saw Anil Roberts put up a post the other day, and everything coming out of his mouth these days, almost every post that he's posting. So he's come off the Sharon Rowley issue, and now he's gone back to the race baiting. Everything is the PNM is about race and race and race. Right? He's the poster boy for race talk in that party. So I commented on one of his posts about this race issue, and I asked him, so who was it that called Vassan Bharat a knife and fork Indian? He didn't respond, but of course the members of the literati who support him decided to come at me. And one of them was saying, yes, she was right to call Vassan Bharat that, and he's an Imakaram and whatnot, and what have you. As I responded, if Keith Rowley had called Vassan Bharat a knife and fork Indian, well, boy, all hell would have break loose. Everybody in the UNC would have been calling Dr. Rowley a racist. Yeah? But Kamala says it. Yes, she damn right to say that about him. But if Keith Rowley had said it, they would have raked him over the coals. Ask yourselves, UNC, every week I have to come here and challenge you all. Ask yourselves, which party really is the cult? Who are the true sycophants? You all love to call the PNM that. Because I heard yesterday on that same program too, they're talking about the PNM supporters, sycophant PNM supporters will believe anything you tell them. Yeah? Really? Well, we have no reason not to, because you see, what is told to us by the leadership of our party, we know is true. We could substantiate it with evidence, with articles, with hard facts. We don't do like the UNC supporters, who when they tell you, I had another encounter with Potong-in-Chief, UNC Potong-in-Chief Marsha Walker, because she put up a post on her Facebook page stating that Dr. Rowley didn't sue Anika Gums, I think it is, when she had made some allegation against him. And what does that mean? Because he didn't sue her. And I asked, so I told her we're still waiting on the avalanche of lawsuits that Kamala Persad-Bissessar promised to bring against Jack Warner after the election, for all of the claims that Jack Warner made against her in the lead up to the 2015 election, such as the claim that she received $8 million, 2 checks totaling $8 million to facilitate Section 34. Such as the claim by Jack Warner that she had an alleged affair with a young man who lives next door by the name of Christian Gokul. Yes, a 30-something-year-old, half her age. Jack Warner made that claim that Christian was mowing her lawn and trimming her hedges. He made the claim that the house next door that Christian living in, that Kamala purchased that. Or it was purchased by a financier and given to her, but it was placed under Christian's name so that she would get off the hook. The claim that SIS built her house. All of these different claims that Mr. Warner made. That pages went missing from the logbook at the visitor's logbook at the diplomatic center, the Prime Minister's residence. That Prado used to be coming in the night with man hiding in the back seat to go and fix her up. All of these claims Jack Warner made. And when she was interviewed by the media, she said, my lawyers are taking note. But I am in the throes of an election and I will not be distracted. But after the election, I'm going to bring an avalanche of lawsuits. We're still waiting on the avalanche. All we got was a snowflake because of one claim he made that she got some bribe somewhere with some US money in some bank in Japan or Korea or something like that. She sued him for that. But all the other claims that he made, the taping that he did with the former chauffeur of the then Minister of the People and Social Development, Glenn Ramadas Singh, where he claimed that he used to drive the Prado to take the man to the Prime Minister's residence when she was under the influence so that they could engage in extramarital activities. Yes, you all remember that clip that the man played? You all remember that? That Jack Warner and the guy swore to an affidavit that what he was saying was true. She never sued Jack for any of those things. But you have Potong-in-Chief Marsha Walker want to put up a post to say Keith Rowley didn't sue Anita Gums. I think that was her name. So I asked her about it. She didn't respond to that, right? She couldn't respond to that. But telling me, well, if Keith Rowley is going to be no different from Kamala, why did they vote out Kamala? And Kamala built 100 and something schools, and Kamala built police station, and she built fire station, and she did all of these things. And I simply said, really? All of these things? She gave me one long list. If you see things, claiming responsibility for things that the PNM did. So I asked her, I said to her, well, apparently the propaganda mill took long to send you that because she took about an hour to respond. And I said, but in the face of all of those accomplishments, they still went from 29 seats to 18 seats in the space of 5 years. In just 3 years, from 2010 to 2013, this great People's Partnership government that the UNC would have you believe was the best ever in this country's history, they went from 11 seats, 11 corporations, right? From 11, they lost 5 in the space of 3 years. Why is that? If they were doing all of these great things, these wonderful things, that the roads was the best and everything was the best, you had proper drainage, box drains, and everything was so good. How in 3 years from July 2010 to 2013, local government election, they lost 5 corporations that they wrested from the PNM. 5 in just 3 years. And then you lost in the space of just 5 years, 3 months and 14 days, 11 seats, right? Remember in the wake of the 2010 election, they said the PNM was reduced to a 12-seater maxi? That was the joke they was making. Yeah, the PNM come and pull all them 11 seats from earlier. And after 5 years, you know how many Keith Rowley lost? 1. 1. Just 1. The 5 seats, the corporations that they took back, they lost 1. Grandee. Because of the foolishness of... Anyway. We'll talk about that another time. He didn't lose 5. Despite the fact that I talk about, oh, they closed down Petrochin and how much hundreds of thousands of people lost their work and people suffering and all of that. 1 corporation lost and 1 seat lost. We lost Maruga Tableland. And the reason why that was lost is debatable. He didn't lose 11 seats. And with all of the issues that you all raised about the PNM and the corruption and all of that, at the end of the day, you all could say what you want. Not one minister in this administration has ever been accused of being a bag of money minister, as being a brown bag minister or crocus bag minister. Not one minister under this administration has been accused in the last 7 years of soliciting bribes and kickbacks from any contractor. But when we used to be seeing man walking out with paper bag from apartments or townhouses up in Trin City, you remember that? And when the media asked him about it because somebody took a photo, he said, well, you know, it had a lot of food and I was taking, I decided to take some food to work with. As if we born last week. Yeah? As if we born last week. A man leave his cell phone after drinking too much, left his cell phone at a bar in Central. Some patron found the cell phone. A minister, when he opened it up, going into the text messages 2 and 3 years old of arrangements being made between the minister and the bag of money. The bag of money man, of where to drop off the bag of money, right? The media got their hands on the phone, asked them about it. Is it your phone? Yes, it is my phone. So what about the text messages? I don't know nothing about that. So apparently somebody went in there and created all of these text messages, right? Notwithstanding the fact that when you look at the date on the text messages, some of them are 2 and 3 years old. But the minister said he don't know nothing about that. Yes, the phone is mine, you know, but I don't know nothing about no text messages to make arrangements to collect no bag of money. Not one minister in this administration has been accused of that. I've made the point before that despite the allegations the UNC like to make and claim that the PNM invent thieving and the PNM invent corruption, every time you ask them to give us examples, they could only go back to O'Halloran, Privat, and well, the most recent vintage, they could talk about Marlene MacDonald. But that's about it. They can't point fingers against any of these ministers here. And Keith Rowley runs a tight ship because as we told them very early on, anytime when they get caught in any wrong, stand up, you're on your own. Don't look for me to defend you. To date, they still can't point fingers at any minister. So what is the nastiness that they do? They want to make allegations about who horning who. As Jolene John said, when they go low, we go below the pavement. That is where they belong, below the pavement. Because they're nasty and low like that. They can't make any allegations of corruption. So let's stir up the pot and talk about, oh, this one horned that one, and somebody horned the horn a man, and bundles having an affair with this one, and the Prime Minister having an affair with this one, and the Prime Minister was with this one wife. Pathetic. We could point to many, many instances and allegations of corruption against ministers under Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. Where it seemed like every other Monday morning, she had to fire somebody because their name get called up in some wrong stand-up, some malfeasance. She holds the record for the prime minister that fired the most ministers in this country's history. The most. For all kind of wrongdoing. But you all want to point fingers and say this government thief. And thief what? Where the thief? Every bloody project that the People's Partnership overbid for when this administration came in, retendered and brought it under, saved you millions of dollars. President's house that the People's Partnership said was supposed to cost 169 million to build or to renovate. This administration did it for 89. So that is $80 million they could have thief. Right? Just that 80 million alone that they saved. 23 members of cabinet could have get over $2 million each, almost $3 million apiece. Add that to the 12 million apiece that they could have gotten from the savings on the Curep interchange. They could have thief that too. The People's Partnership told us it would cost over $100 million to renovate Napa and to fix the deficiencies. Member did it. 20 million. The extra 80 plus million dollars, they could have thief that too. All of these projects, they could have come in and say, here what? The PP says so, we go in with that. Because if they come to tell us that it didn't cost that, well, we will point to them and say, but all you said it was going to cost that. So is it that you all were lying? Is it that you all inflated the price so you could thief? They couldn't argue. We go in with the cost that they said. All these projects retendered. The Arima Hospital, Point Fortin Hospital, all of them, millions, as Dr. Rowley pointed out, over $1 billion in savings. All those ministers could have thief that money in the first 5 years and retire after that. Leave politics. But oh, they thief. And the PNM is corruption and all of that. Really? This Prime Minister isn't accused of taking any money to get any financiers off? Never accused of that. Up to now, we're still trying to find out that $135,000 that Barry gave to Kamla, what that was for. We celebrated the second anniversary of this administration having one election on August 10, 2020. 2 years now, that issue was made public in the newspaper, in the media. Mark Bassan, 2 years. Up to now, police still investigating. Well, I think they're investigating. Still waiting to know what that $135,000 for. That Barry couldn't remember why he gave her $135,000. But she come and gave a cock and bull story about when she went away on some official trip and the credit card, the government credit card wasn't working and she used her private credit card and they pay her back. Really? What's the limit on your credit card, madam? You must have a very big limit that you could afford to rack up a bill of $135,000 on one trip. Is so? Well, all right. On your salary? Well, okay. But we are now, up to now, still waiting. Still waiting. Which is why this story, this headline story that I see here on the Express this morning, let me read it again for those of you just joining us. Cops quiz MP Lee. Probe into purchase of $2.3 million Mercedes-Benz. Did $1.4 million tax exemption benefit UNC financier? We might wait another 5 years before we hear an outcome into that matter. That's all they do. Rile up people. And nothing to come of it, unfortunately. But they have a problem with the vehicles Stuart Young buy, or the vehicle that the Minister of Health buy. All of them, like in the cell phone, 2.3 million, the most expensive of all members of Parliament. But the illiterati ain't going to talk about that. No, but they want to talk about Rohan buy a vehicle. Since 2017. The same thing with the Curep interchange, where it was announced. You know, they keep asking the question, how much money the PNM pay Rohan for the Kedona site? And they hear he get 80 million. And who heard he get 150 million? And how many millions and millions he get? Till the man had to speak at the commissioning. He was cutting a ribbon for something, I think, with that same related project. And he made the point that to date, I have not received any money. And I am of the view that I may not receive any money. Why? Because the Kedona lands was leased from the state. And the lease expired. So therefore, I don't even know if my family and I and the other partners in that development, if we are entitled to any compensation at all from the state. Rohan Sinanan said that. He said that. He didn't have to. He made that point. So contrary to what the UNC want to tell you, that, oh, he get how much, $100 million and they only care about Rohan and Rohan. And then I heard Kunji call yesterday to talk about how much black businessmen it have, Keith Rowley have surrounding him and so on and whatnot. and they don't have none, and it's only Ruhanson, and you know what's the hypocrisy in that? Just the other day, Jayanti Lakshmidial hounding Foster Cummings about his family business. Yeah, like you forget that one, Kunji. Right? Kamala, they sending spies to take pictures of the man park up his vehicle, park up outside his family business. The Doglaya want to know what it is Foster Cummings doing, park up outside the business during work hours when he's supposed to be in his ministry doing work. But you want to ask Mr. Watson Duke, why it is he not doing the work he's supposed to do as THA Deputy Chief Secretary? Well, we don't even know what work he's supposed to do. Apparently, the work that he's supposed to do is to be joyriding all over the world on taxpayers' money, talking about we establishing international relations and building international relationships. Hounding Foster Cummings. Go on and dig up to get all information on the man business, deposit that he make in the credit union. You want to pull his declaration, Integrity Commission declaration, all of that bacchanal. Yeah? But Kunji went called to defend that, to defend him, Foster Cummings. Isn't he a black businessman? No. You wouldn't call to condemn the UNC and Jayanti and them for that stupidness. But you want to talk about, Keith Rowley, black businessmen around him. I keep telling you all, go and look at the list that the Prime Minister published in the Parliament of all the contractors who worked on the Red House project that the UNC had told you was supposed to cost $900+ million. Thanks to this administration, it cost $440 million. Less than half of what the UNC tell you they needed to spend. That's another $500 million that this government could have thief. Each of them, 23 ministers of government, $500 million. I tell you, all of them could have retired after the first term and leave politics. They could have jumped on a plane and go to any other country and not be able to spend that money. But they said you, the taxpayers, that money that the PP was going to spend if you all had put God out of your collective thoughts and put them back into office. But they want to tell you, 440 million, all the other things that could have spent on. But the millions that were spent on the Panday for the roof, and then they had to end up putting a tarpaulin over the roof that stayed there for years. We ain't going to talk about that. No. All that savings. But I was making the point. Check the list of contractors and see how much money, how many of them are black contractors, Afro-Trini contractors. Since all you only want to talk about, everything is the 1% and the 1% and Keith Rowley in the back pocket of the 1%. As the Prime Minister made the point in one of those articles there, he lost, you know how many friends he lost? Because of that development down there by the same Diego Martin interchange, where the government is putting the administrative complex for the Diego Martin Regional Corporation and West Park Savannah. He said, I lost friends. I lost friends because of that. Because these persons wanted the land. And because they didn't get the land, and because we choose to put it to public use, people stopped talking to him. Same 1%. Vexed with him for that because they wanted the land. But he in the back pocket of the 1%. And it's the same Keith Rowley that challenged all of the leases for the lands that Kamala gave down Shagaramas. That how many hundreds of you walked in the hot blazing sun from Shagaramas to the waterfront to protest. That slept 3 and 4 nights on the pavement in relay in front of the waterfront to protest the lands. All you forget about them thing. Till one man get 4 acres of land for $1 a year for 30 years. Same man, 35 acres of prime real estate for $3,800 a month. They want to talk about promoting agriculture and black business. But when they brought in the bulldozers to run Richie and all them fellas from Guav Road, all the farmers down on Guav Road who was there for how many years? Heap up all the people's sweet potato and the melangen and the okras in a corner up against a tree trunk. All they wanted, go and take it. But this land here, this is for this 1% man so he could build a car park. Where were these bleeding hearts? Where were these black businessmen bleeding hearts? Well, I had nothing to say then when that was happening. How many times Richie and them come in this very same studio shedding tears for what was happening to them? That lands that they had been cultivating for years and crops that almost ready to be reaped. They bring in the backhoe and jack it up in a corner. Or you go and sift through that and see what all you could salvage. In this very studio here, under when we were the Sunshine Hour, we brought them in here to talk about that. You all heard it for yourself. But all they didn't care about black business then. You all didn't care about agriculture then. No. 100 acres of land given to one to plant onions to export. And what end up with that? Pave a whole chunk of the land, build up a restaurant. Yeah, build up a restaurant. Not one onion planted. Dr. Oli had to come and take back 50 acres. 50 acres from him. That wasn't Kamala. You know what Kamala did? She take your taxpayers' money to fet, wine and dine the same so-called 1% up at the diplomatic center to tell you and to tell me that if it is we were to follow the example of the Syrian Lebanese communities, Trinidad and Tobago would be a much richer, brighter, prosperous nation. Follow the example. The same example that they cussing today. What is the example of the so-called 1%, the Syrian Lebanese community? You all know what it is. I don't need to tell her that. But she said it. She told you all, follow that example. Well, I forget that too. Keith Rowley never did that. Keith Rowley never did that. How many of you who defending that? You all, any of you all got an invitation to attend? She want to call people knife and fork Indian. Let me guess. At that event, they were eating with their fingers. And what they call those Sohari leaves or something like that. Wasn't knife and fork the way she ate with that night. No. She said, bring the Sohari leaf. Yeah. Put the food there. What does call it? I can't remember the name. Where they turn it up, mix it up with your fingers and eat it. That's what she did. She wasn't eating with knife and fork, but Vasant is a knife and fork Indian. And the cult, that is the UNC, her supporters, yeah, they backing her for that. Yeah, she right. That's what he do. He sell out. He went against. Really? Why? Why did he go against? Because he was willing to offer his services to the PNM in order to improve the country's lot? Because the PNM didn't see him as a UNC. They saw him as an accomplished citizen. But to you all, he's an Imakaram. Yeah, he's an Imakaram because he went against the UNC. As I say that, let me read something here. I'll pull it up. Right. Let me get it here. Let me read what was the response on Facebook of a UNC supporter with respect to, I hope I have it here saved. What's the guy's name, boy? No, right. Mr. Samuel Sanka. Right, let me see if I get it here. Right. Just now, give me 1 sec. Let me find it here. I know I saved it. No, that's not it. Just now, huh? No, that's not it. Oh, gosh. Right. Asha Ramlakan, right? You a known UNC supporter. She always commenting on every and anything that it have on Facebook with respect to this government and have some of the nastiest things to say. Here what was her position with respect to Samuel Sanka, right? He must be removed as a councillor for the next local government elections. Whether he agreed with the decision of the leader or not, it was important that he hold the line. This is not how war is fought. This is treason, and we all know the punishment for treason in any part of the world. Ramona Ramdial responded, Asha Ramlakan Kamla must be removed for her treasonous actions against the UNC. It is because of her the UNC is in opposition for 10 years. And if she decides to run for 2025, then 15 years of opposition. She and her cronies are using the UNC for her own self-serving agenda and ignoring the plight of the people. Get real. That's Ramona Ramdial, former member of parliament for Kuva North under the People's Partnership. Right? But you hear what Asha Ramlakan says? That whether he agreed with the decision of the leader or not, it was not important. That it was important. What was important is that he hold the line. That is cult behavior. Cult behavior. Hold the line. So whether Kamla's decision was foolishness or not, and you believe it was nonsense, you were supposed to hold the line. Toe the line of the political leader. Don't go against. And because you went against, what she said here? This is treason, and we all know the punishment for treason in any part of the world. What is the punishment for treason, Asha? He's supposed to go be before the firing squad? He's supposed to be hung by the neck until dead, Asha? That's the extreme that you want people to go to because a man disagreed with the position of the political leader, which was an irresponsible position taken. But that's how the UNC does think, right? But then they want to call the PNM supporters cult and sycophants. That is what you call sycophantism. That you would liken what this man did, recognizing the fact that he doesn't only represent UNC voters, that while it may be the UNC vote that has him sitting on the council, that there are persons living in his district who do not support the UNC. And therefore, he took a position that he was going to attend, even though he said he didn't know, and when he reached there, they call him Mani Makaram and so on. But anyway, yeah. But the fact of the matter is that if this is a democracy, this is a democracy. It's not Kamala Prasad Bisesa paying him. It is not Kamala Prasad Bisesa that he represents. But the philosophy is party before country. She say that. She tell Basan that too. That's why she labeled him a knife and fork Indian. So I guess Samuel Sanka is also a knife and fork Indian too. She, Kamala Prasad Bisesa, said that. Never forget that. But I see Rushton Parry like he find his cojones. Yeah? Because as I told you all some weeks ago, apparently to be able to represent the UNC, one understands that when you come to the screening committee, you are told that once you are selected, you will be required to relinquish your testicles for the period of servitude. So if you're going up as a councillor, you'll be required to relinquish your testicles for 3 years. If you're going up as a member of parliament, you'll be required to relinquish your testicles for a period of approximately 5 years, unless an early election is called. All right? And unless the political leader, Kamala Prasad Bisesa, gives you the privilege to use those testicles from time to time during the course of your period of servitude to her, you will not, don't even bother to ask. You will not have access to your testicles. So most of the men in the UNC have been emasculated by Kamala Prasad Bisesa. But apparently, I don't know if it is Rushton borrow somebody else's testicles to put out this post on Facebook. And he says, Samuel Sanka, there is only one way to do the right thing. Winston Churchill advised that the first duty of an MP or councillor is to do what he or she thinks is right and necessary for the honour and safety of this country. His second duty is to his constituents, of whom he is the representative but not a delegate. As MPs and councillors, we are representatives of the people who elected us, not the political leader, the people who elected us. On election day, they, the electorate, spill proverbial blood, the dipping of the finger in ink, as they trust and faith that we will do what's right and fair in their interest, not the interest of our respective political leaders, or their edicts, or their dictates, right? That's why we are representatives, not delegates, to parrot someone else's view. This is Rushton Parry, the Member of Parliament for Mayaro. And he goes on to say, and the day that position becomes immoral or insufficient to the collective, life goes on. All the best, my brother. Rushton Parry put out that. Well, I guess we're probably not going to be seeing him in 2025. Whoever testicles he borrowed to put out that post, well, I hope he holds on to it for a little while longer. Yeah? Because I don't think Kamala going to allow him to have his back until, well, the expiration of his term. Of course, by then it's underutilized. So, anyway, it is what it is. Now, as I said, I don't know if we can take calls. I was told we would not be able to. But Gavin Harrison says 5 million for 3 concrete table and chairs with red brick. Okay. On the wharf in San Fernando opposite PTSC. Sandra Watson says, don't forget what Kamala did with the Shogunas Convention Center. Yes, Sandra. How much money they sold it for? 30 million or something like that? Or 10 million or something, and then they leased it back. Some back and also. Let's see here. Wipe your nose every time you lie. Who is this? Sammy John? Sammy John, the truth hurts, I guess. Yeah, but you're still here, listening to it, and? Yeah, why not listening to the UNC's press conference? Or why not listening to 104, the Underground Report? You know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because you're addicted to the truth. Or you can't help all yourself. The truth hurts. Well, you want to call people thief and all of that. Know all yourself. Your party. Your party. Let's see who else is there. Teresa Conliffe says something wrong with these people. Do they know the meaning of the word treason? Apparently they don't. Or maybe they do, Teresa. But that is the extent to which they go through that. When you go against the political leader, you know? Angie Brisbane Bascom says, cult behavior indeed. They just drink the Kool-Aid. Victoria Isidore, good afternoon to you. What's that? Look, you see, this is why I don't read some of these comments, you know. Oh, Lord. Hugh Bridgman says the UNC and their supporters operate clannish, tribal, and segregative, and with the behavior with that behavior is not good for TNT. Go Asia with that dotishness. Let me see if we get through here. Let me see. There, call me back now. Remember what they did to Ramesh? Also Dinesh Rambali is in the doghouse. Ben J. Singh, mad drunken Kamla. But he took an oath in front of God and country to represent his constituency, Anne-Marie Solomon. We love, who's that? Let me see this one. We love Auntie and we vote in she still till thy kingdom come. Well, all right. Let me see who that is. Who is that? Let's see here. Let's see if I get in that. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. Tell us about that now, Sammy. Let me see here. Let me put you up this morning, Sammy John. Since you're looking for 15 minutes of fame, I'll give it to you. I'll give you 5. The truth hurts. You're damn right, Jack looking for me. What Jack looking for me for? Jack know where to find me. Jack have my number if you want to talk to me. Jack know where I live in. And I know where Jack live in too. Right? We know who looking for who? Let me tell you. The police looking for David Lee. Buy a newspaper. Here what to do. Buy today's Express now, Sammy John, and tell us about that. Why don't tell us about the 135,000 that we're asking for that Barry gave to Kamla, and he can't remember what he gave her the money for, but she could remember. Sammy, tell us about that. But Jack looking for me? You for real? But don't worry, soon enough the police will be looking for all of them. Plenty all in the UNC they will be looking for. The truth is, that's why you all here, and that's why you all come back every week. Bunch of jokers. Let me give you some more statistics to hold, Sammy. Just now. Let me see something here. Pull this up. Let me give you some statistics that I gave to Marsha, the Potown, right? The Potown in chief of the UNC. Let me find this here. That's all I like to talk nonsense. So Marsha says to me that Keith Rowley spent $1 billion more than Kamla, right? And I had to ask her, is that another statistic courtesy Kamla-matics? Well, let me give you some figures, right? This is from the Central Bank website, Sammy, John. I hope you're listening. Public finance, fiscal. Fiscal year start date, 2011. The People's Partnership spent $51,474,000,000. 2012, they spent $57,668,000,000. 2013, they spent $62,820,000,000. 2014, $59,943,000,000. 2015, $52,944,000,000. So everything is 50s and 60s, right, Sammy? I hope you're listening. I want you to go and look for that. Since you know about who looking and what looking. The PNM, 2016, $49.7 billion. 2017, $48.866. 2018, $50.77. 2019, $51.160. And 2020, $50.794 billion. Do the maths now, Sammy. And make sure you use mathematics this time, not Kamla-matics. Yeah? Let me see here. What's this there? Why didn't jump out when the police was looking for Foster? The police, well, police investigating Foster, okay. If Foster do anything wrong, he pay the price. So, Jason D'Souza, what do you think? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Jason? on the headlines on today's Express. You have no comments on that, right? You blasted hypocrite. You have nothing to say on that. Why you don't jump out? You want us to jump out for Foster? Jump out on MP Lena? You have nothing to say about that. Yeah? You could refute any of the things I said here this morning? No, you can't. But all you love to talk about the PNM thief and the PNM thief. Bunch of damn jokers. But anytime you all come with your nonsense, I will debunk your lies. Debunk your lies. Also, I heard yesterday where Kunji too was talking about the PNM with respect to they doing nothing for poor people and how Kamala help poor people and she built house. You ever hear Kamala talk about building any house? They talk about they built 100 school and how many kilometers of roads they built. You ever hear Kamala say we built 2,000 house or 3,000 house? I don't know where Kunji got that from. I never hear them talk about that. And I would think if you build 2,000 or 3,000 houses, that is a much better statistic to boast about than I build 106 schools. So where they build those houses? How many projects, housing projects that were started under Patrick Manning that they abandoned when they came in? Nopoyo Court, Malabar, today it is completed and a number of units added. Beaufort, down by the Western Cemetery down there in St. James, that too was abandoned. This administration came in, completed it, new units added. Valsane, Real Spring, same thing, abandoned units. They allowed vandals to go in and thief out toilet fixtures, all them kind of thing. After millions of dollars spent, hundreds of millions of dollars are spent on these projects. They abandoned it. This administration came in and finished it, right? But then in 2015, 100 houses a week. All you remember that? Where these houses came from? This is houses that Patrick Manning and the PNM built. Remember Munilal tell us, oh, we have 1,200 houses waiting for distribution in terrestrial lands in Dabadi. And when the members of the media went there, what they found? 2 load of gravel, a load of red sand, and 2 backhoe. And some blocks. Not one house constructed. Not one. But they paid $200 million. $200 million of taxpayers' money to purchase terrestrial lands. They pay $175 million for Eden Gardens that was valued at 52. You have anything to say about that, Sammy John? Or Jason D'Souza? You care to comment on that? No? You have nothing to say about that? $175 million for a piece of land valued at 52. The same prison that they built up in Santa Rosa that Jack said that building was offered to him for $17 million. And he said it ain't worth that. But the PP went and paid $230 odd million for it after spending $50 million to rent and then to outfit. $330 million spent. You have anything to say about that, Jason? But all you know how money could spend and how road could fix and what the government could do with this money and that money now it. But all you didn't know about that then. Sammy John, where you? I find the two all disappear. Where you? Let me see what else you have to say there. I ain't seen you disappear. Where you, Jason? Don't forget to call Jack bills to pay. Really? What bills is that, Sammy? What he buy for you? How many of your bills did he pay? Bunch of clowns. Where's Jason? Jennifer Frederick, we vote in Kamala till we dead. We love that. All you continue to vote Kamala till all you dead. And that's exactly what all you're going to continue to do until she dies. But one might happen before the other. But all you began to have sense. Figure it out. Hey, I tell you, yes. There's one. Let me find this other one. Where is it? So here it is. Let me give all you another statistic from the Auditor General account while I wait until 1 o'clock. So I'm reading here from the Exchequer account, right? This is 2010. Remember I told you all when the People's Partnership came in 2010, was that Sammy and Jason, wife and husband? I wouldn't doubt that. The highest the Exchequer account had ever been was $10 billion in overdraft, right? $10 billion. Despite the fact that Patrick Manning built Napa, he built SAPA, he built the Prime Minister's Residence and Diplomatic Center, he built hospital, he built road, he built the waterfront, all of these different things. He built the office complex in San Fernando that Kamala turned into a hospital and it was underutilized for 5 years, 3 months and 14 days. All of these things Patrick Manning did. And he didn't take the Exchequer account to where Kamala took it. From $10 billion in overdraft to $33 billion, permanent overdraft. That was Kamala Prasad-Bissessar that did that, right? When she was Prime Minister. Let me give you all an example. This is 2009, 2010, the budget. Here how the expenditure was going, right? October 2009, which was the first month of fiscal 2009-2010, the PNM spent 2,344,000,000. November, 1.4 billion. December, 1.39 billion. January, 2.57 billion. February, 2.887 billion. March, 1.944 billion. April, no, sorry, wrong figure, sorry. October, 2.6 billion. November, 3.2 billion. December, 3.4 billion. January, 3.9 billion. February, 2.2 billion. March, 3.9 billion. April, 3.9 billion. And May, 2.9 billion, right? They lost office in May, on the 24th of May, 2010. The People's Partnership came in. So, you know, it would have taken a couple days because the election was the Monday, the Wednesday, Kamala would have been sworn in and so on, and then for her to appoint her cabinet and stuff. So let's just say the PNM was in power up until basically, right. Expenditure for May was PNM. Here how the UNC expenditure went. As soon as they came in, June 2010, they spent 3.3 billion. July 2010, they spent 4.1 billion. For 8 months, Manning never reached 4 billion yet. Kamala now come in. August, 4.259 billion. And here September, $7.876 billion. So in the space of 4 months, they spent almost $20 billion. Yeah? $20 billion in 4 months of coming into office. So in the space of 4 months, they spent almost what Patrick Manning took 8 months to spend. So they wasted no time as soon as they came in 2010 to rob the treasury. That's what they offer. That's what they offer. You want to know where I get this, Jason? You want to know where I get this, Sammy? You want to know where to go and look? Since you're concerned about who looking for what and what looking for what? The Auditor General's Report 2010. Go and check it out now. The information is right there. Right there. But I'm glad that you all came on. Let me see what Jason's saying there. Give me some right. So Gavin has decided that Jason has decided he wants to go below the pavement. So he reached to telling people what they murder. Typical UNC. Right? When you all can't deal with the facts, let's go nasty. All right. We'll allow you, Jason. You're allowed to go below the pavement. Nicole Caesar says, let me see. Why I keep talking about Manning, talk about Rowley. Let's see what he did. You want to know what he did, Roger? Rowley bought 3 brand new ferries, Roger, and he saved one that the PP ran into the ground. How many did Kamala buy, Roger? You want me to give you the 30 seconds from the 30-second theme song from Jeopardy to think about it? We have 4 vessels working on the sea bridge. How many did Kamala buy? And she said she had the highest energy revenues in this country's history. How many did she buy, Roger? None. Not one, Roger. Instead, she ran down the 2 that it had, refusing to send them for maintenance. Hence the reason why when Rowley came into office, Roger, both vessels had to go onto dry dock, Roger, which resulted in the fiasco on the sea bridge, Roger, but all you forget that. Yeah, you want me to talk about Dr. Rowley? We'll go again. Keith Rowley, Roger, increased personal allowance, Roger, from 60,000 under Kamala. So for the 5 years, 3 months and 14 days that Kamala was there, personal allowance was 60,000 a year, Roger. Keith Rowley increased it to 84,000 per year, Roger. You know what that means? It means that thousands of citizens in this country, Roger, no longer pay PAYE. Pay as you earn. They don't pay income tax, thanks to Keith Rowley. So thousands who were paying income tax under Kamala are no longer paying that. And the other thousands, Roger, saving $6,000 a year in income tax, Roger. 6,000. It was Keith Rowley, Roger, that had to go abroad and bring back $3 billion of your taxpayers' money, Roger, that Kamala Persad-Bissessar allowed the energy companies to take by giving them sweetheart deals with respect to paying taxes and royalties, Roger. So if Kamala Persad-Bissessar was there, based on those arrangements that they made, no tax money until 2024, Roger. What year are we in, Roger? 2022. 2022, Roger. Keith Rowley reduced VAT to 12.5%, Roger. But you know, people like yourself figure that the only thing in this country have VAT is food, Roger. No, it's not food alone. So the last bag of cement that you bought, Roger, assuming that you own your own home, and I'm making an assumption here, I'm going out on a limb. You save 2.5%, Roger. If you bought a car, Roger, you know, a brand new car, when you go into the dealership, work out 2.5% on 200,000 or 300,000, Roger, because brand new cars now, you're lucky if you get anything under 250,000, Roger. Do the math now. Work out 2.5% of that, Roger. Yeah, Keith Rowley did that, Roger. Kamala had a cabinet of 33 people, Roger. 33. Was that? Gas materials gone up, so you can't save? Really? Still work out 2.5%, Roger, because guess what? You're paying VAT on your TNTech bill, Roger. You pay VAT on your WASA bill, Roger. You pay VAT on your TSTT or flow bill, Roger. So instead of the 15% you were paying under Kamala, you now pay 12.5% VAT on all these bills, Roger. You want me to continue going, Roger? Huh? Keith Rowley outfitted the government campus that Kamala Persad-Bissessar left vacant for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. So while Kamala continued to renew leases with the same 1% that she bad talking today, Keith Rowley, when he came in early, said enough is enough. We're not going to be renting anymore. You know what he did? He outfitted the government campus, Roger. So that blue glass building at the bottom of Abercrombie Street and Independence Square that used to house customs for how many donkey years, Roger? It's been empty for the last 6 years. You know why? Because customs now has their own building on Ajax Street. The Ministry of Education that was renting building here, there, and everywhere, Roger. Today they have their own building in government campus. So all those buildings that were being rented to house Ministry of Education offices, they've been vacant for the last 6 years, Roger. So whoever is the 1% that own those buildings has collected not 1 penny of rent from the state in the last 6 years. And all the other government departments that now populate government campus, Roger, is money out of the pockets of the 1% that whose pockets you all claim Keith Rowley is in. But Kamala could have done the same thing, Roger. She could have done the same thing. You want to hear about Paris? Let me tell you. All the buildings that you're talking about at Paris, let me tell you something, Roger. Before I leave here, I'm going to take another 5 or 10 minutes. Because they told me I could go over a little bit. Because Pastor Johnson is not on social media. Let's talk about Paris, Roger. In 2009, when the PNM took the decision, based on the recommendation of our department called PRESD, Roger, which is the department that is responsible for looking for buildings when the government needs to rent buildings, there's a department called PRESD. So they would go, they would look at buildings, they would inspect the buildings, and then they would make a recommendation to the cabinet. So it wasn't that Keith Rowley or Patrick Manning was driving and they say, hey, look, that building looking good, let me rent that. No. That's not how it works, Roger. A recommendation would have come to the parliament, to the cabinet, based on what PRESD put out. This was in December of 2009. The People's Partnership came into office in 2010, May, Roger. Why didn't they bring the lease to an end? You know the cock and bull story they tell us? Well, you know, if we had broken the lease, we would have to pay a penalty. How much would the penalty have been? Let's compare what penalty would have been as opposed to what they ultimately ended up paying for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, Roger. Over $100 million was spent to outfit the building. Not one public servant ever stepped foot in there in 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, Roger. They spent $5 million on security to secure an empty building, Roger. They spent an additional $43 million on rent in that 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, Roger. So almost $200 million of your taxpayers' dollars, Roger, went into that building. Rather than the PP simply bringing the lease to an end and probably paying maybe a couple $1 million in penalties, they chose to spend over almost $200 million, Roger. That making sense to you? Huh? But if you're a student of Kamala-matics, it would make sense to you. It didn't make sense to the rest of us. So that was $200 million that need not have been spent. Even if they had paid $10 million in penalties, we would have saved $190 million, Roger. Now, the average lease period, Roger, for a building, public renting building, is usually a 3-year lease because the building that number 3 Alexandra Street that is now being that is now housing the CPO's office, which is Faris's family's building too, was leased for a period of 3 years, Roger. The PP was in office for 5 years. 5 years, Roger. So when the lease came to an end, Roger, because that was 2009, I don't think the lease was for 6 years. Why didn't they bring the lease to an end, Roger, when it expired? The building that they like to talk about, the one opposite Long Circular Mall, how many times did that building come up, the lease expire between 2010 to 2015, Roger, assuming a 3-year lease period? Why Kamla didn't bring that lease to an end, Roger, or any of the other buildings that they were renting from Faris family, since you want to talk about Faris? How many times did those leases come to an end between 2010 and 2015? At least once, Roger. Why didn't Kamla and they decide we're not renting again from Faris family, go and find somebody else building? Why didn't do that? Why did they renew the leases, Roger? You see how this make you all look like a bunch of idiots, Roger? You see? So you're coming here now to talk choppiness about Faris. With no sense. With no sense, Roger. But when all they want to defend a cultish leader, that's what has happened. So, you want to talk Faris? We can talk Faris, you know. Yeah. We can talk Faris. Whose fault it is that most of the buildings in Port of Spain that are available for rent are owned by the 1%? Whose fault is that? Asking you. Whose fault is that? You tell me now. So when you want to talk Faris and Faris this and Faris that, just remember, Kamla renewed the leases, my friend. The leases that were started under Keith Rowley. Yeah? Just remember, Kamla renewed those between 2010 and 2015. Because the lease wasn't for 5 years. You understand? So wheel and come again, my friend. Wheel and come again. When all they want to talk that stupidness. Not around me. Wrong one. You understand? Okay. So, talk to Kamla. When all they want to say who in the back pocket of the 1%, check all yourself. Check all yourself. Because we're saving millions of dollars now. That's why Keith Rowley said he lost a lot of friends. He lost a lot of friends because he's not afraid to make the hard decisions. So that is why you have a number of buildings around Port of Spain. But the one in Barataria, Roger, that they paid $53 million in rent for that we can't find, Roger, that Kamla came on a platform and told us, we have evidence, we spoke to members, we spoke to persons who are working in the building in Barataria, and they said that they are very happy with the accommodations and they don't want to leave Barataria. The employees of the CPO's office have said they are very happy with the accommodations. And when Google and I called the CPO's office, good day, we're trying to get some information with respect to your office in Barataria. Sir, we do not have any, the CPO has no office in Barataria. But the leader of the opposition last night on a platform said that you all have an office there and that they would have spoken with members of the staff who indicated that they are quite happy and they don't want to move from there to go to number 3 Alexander Street. Sir, we do not have any office in Barataria. The CPO's office never had any office in Barataria. The only office we have is on St. Vincent Street, sir. That is the only building. We don't know anything of what you're talking about or what Ms. Prasad Bisasa is talking about, sir. They tell me that. They tell Google that. And both of us call different times. Tell the people get fed up of us calling back to ask. But I tell all you already, we have no building in Barataria. What you telling me about? I work in CPO for 19 years, sir, and I'm telling you we have no building there. Roger. $53 million, according to the Auditor General, Roger, was spent. 53 million. Where it went? Since Sammy John want to talk about looking, well, Sammy here what? Jack looking for me? Well, I looking for the building in Barataria. You could help me with that? Huh? You could help me with that? So now, here, Roger, let me give him 5 minutes of fame too. Whose fault is it that most of the murders in the PNM safe seats? Check that. I will give you a nightmare. You have to answer me. Really, Roger? Really? All right. Let me ask you a question, Roger. Right? Because that is the UNC narrative. That's all they want to push out, right? All of the guns that being used in these murders, where it coming from? Where it coming from? The little black boys and them that all they want to talk about. They bringing in the guns, Roger? The same PNM seats that all they love to talk about had the most amount of crime and the most amount of poverty. But let me ask you something, Roger. Which party represents the constituencies that have the wealthiest people in this country? Where do 1% live in? Orapuch? Where they live in? Separia? Tabakit? Faizabad? No, they live in Diego Martin West. They live in Diego Martin Central. They live in Diego Martin East. Northeast, under Coleman, but this is where they live, Roger. That's where the 1% live. So when only want to talk about the PNM represented the poorest and the most, ask yourself, why is it that the Chinese don't vote for the UNC? Why is it that the local whites don't vote for the UNC? Why is it that the UNC can't get any of those seats down there? They get a little king, a little kakada in 2010. But by and large, they don't support them. Why is that, Roger? Ask yourself that. But you want to talk about, oh, the highest murder rate is in the PNM constituencies and so on. So there are no poverty in the UNC constituencies. There are no murders in the UNC constituencies. Tell me, Roger, why is it that is mostly in the UNC constituencies when you hear about domestic violence killings, husband kill wife? Why is it that most of that you hear almost invariably is always in UNC constituencies, Roger? You can answer me that one? Tell me that now. Tell me that. Every time you hear husband kill wife, husband chop up wife, and kill self, why is it always in UNC constituencies, Roger? Since you want to play that game, let's go there. The same man who's still looking for the corner, what corner there? Makes sense now, Sammy. Oh gosh. Really? What corner? Which corner are you talking about, Nelson? Eh? Which corner are you talking about? Help me to find the building in Barataria, since you're all so concerned about taxpayers' money. The $53 million that was spent on rent, help me find that building. Because that $53 million could have fixed a lot of roads, Sammy. It could have purchased books for a lot of school children, Sammy. You know all the things that you all love to tell the PNM that they could have spent the money on instead of what they're spending it on? That $53 million, last I checked, is plenty more than 7.5. But you ain't have a problem with that $53 million going into the pocket of some landlord who liken himself, right? Not one public servant ever stepped foot in the building, Sammy. Not one. And $53 million of the very best taxpayers' dollars went into a landlord's pocket. Your party, Sammy, gave Adolphus Daniel $34 million live sport. 34 of the very best. We didn't get a stick of chalk. We didn't get a duster, a blackboard, nothing, Sammy. Adolphus Daniel has now, God rest his soul, gone to the great beyond. That money is forever lost. Add 53 and 34 now, Sammy. Where we reach? Eh? Where we reach? Add to that the almost $200 million they spent on 1 Alexander Street, fighting like crabs in a barrel because they couldn't decide who to go in that building. And as a result of that $200 million of taxpayers' dollars, the very best went to that. Add $200 million plus the 53, Sammy. Add that. The $20 million that they spent on happiness campaign to run ads to tell you and me what it means to be happy. And I always say they would have had a lot more happy people if they had just gone and stand up at the bottom of Frederick Street or every street in Port of Spain, Shogunas, and wherever. And as people pass, hand them $50, $20, $100, $20 million in giveaways. People would have been much happier than to watch an ad in the newspaper or the TV to tell me what it means to be happy. Sammy, you could help me with that? The $80+ million that they spent on the fence up in Golden Grove, the fence that only garden bush. Sammy, you could tell me who got that money? Well, I could tell you. It's somebody with the last name that is the same thing as your first name, Sammy. Yeah? You're big and you have sense. Figure it out. 80 of the very best million. Sammy. The 1-point-something million dollars that they spent through NDC to buy tickets for the South Cancer Fed for their friends, family, and financiers to go and eat and drink the very best. To eat shrimps. Yes, not shrimp, you know. Shrimps, according to the Doglaya. I never knew the word shrimp had a T in it, but he put one. What that money could have spent on, Sammy? When it is that the former director of CAL, he had owned Win TV. When he had the Mother's Day concert in New York, right? And as a director of Caribbean Airlines, well, you always talk about how Carl losing money. gave 19 round-trip tickets to his friends and family members so that they could come up to New York and enjoy his Mother's Day concert. You all had anything to say about that, Sammy? Let me see here. It's Cocktail, yes, that's right, Cheryl. She is the quintessential loser, the poster girl for election losses, or according to her attorney, Israel Khan, a fraud of the highest order. Gave herself silk, which she's not deserving. Challenged her to just name one court case of note that she fought. Couldn't even do that. Pathetic, but they're holding up this woman as the savior of this country. Really? Really? How's she gonna do that? Hear what she said? The other night she talking, huh? Let me tell her something. I know I said I was going to leave at 1 o'clock, but I will take 10 more minutes. When you're dotish and you don't know you're dotish is an unfortunate thing. So the other night at the Monday Night Forum, you know, she takes every opportunity that she gets to politic and to tell you, you know, to tell you what she would do when she comes back as Prime Minister. If, not when. And she says if. But she says when, if. You know that ain't happening. She says to fix the roads in the country. At the last election, I told you we would develop a National Infrastructure Development Fund. Yes, a National Infrastructure Development Fund. And we would use those monies to be able to pave the roads and to upgrade the nation's infrastructure like bridges and highways and all of these things, right? And she said when I raised that issue in 2020, the PNM made fun of it and they attacked it. You know why? You all remember what she said the money was going to come from to establish this National Infrastructure Fund, which she says if you all bring her back as Prime Minister, she will put in place? You all remember NIB, as she called it, the idle funds of the National Insurance Board and the Unit Trust Corporation's idle funds? She was going to take that and create this fund, this National Infrastructure Fund, and that she was going to speak with the private sector, the insurance companies and so on, so that they could invest in this fund. Well, guess what? As she said last week, Monday, she intends to bring this back. That if you all put her back as Prime Minister, she intends to follow through on that. So she didn't learn from 2020. So your NIS money that all you're complaining about, oh, it didn't have enough money to pay people the pension and all of that. Yeah, the goodly lady has said she intends to follow through on that and take the idle cash balances of the NIB and the bank and put it in this fund. And take your unit trust money, the idle balances, your hard-earned money that you're working for and put in your little kakada in the unit trust. She intends to take that to create this fund to fix road and fix bridge so that she could give multi-million-dollar contracts, inflated contracts to their friends, family, and financiers to eat her food or for your little kakada that you work hard to save. She said that. Go back and play it and see. But all you ain't going to talk about that. You ain't going to talk about that. Stupid. Yeah, well, those of us with sense who value our little savings, we have no intentions of voting for Kamala till we're dead. Yeah? But if the rest of all here, when it is that she hit all here a Hindu credit union special, take all your money in NIB, and then hasten the depletion of the NIB fund. So when you all think you have some years still to go before the NIB fund run out, and they come and tell you the fund bust, and then you hear they do what they did with the board of the HSF, of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, bring laws to indemnify them. So in case they make any bad investment that cost the funds money, that they couldn't be sued. When you see she sets up the board of this National Infrastructure Development Fund and puts legislation in place to indemnify the board. So when they take NIB money and unit trust money and FCB money and whoever else money to put into this fund and it lost and it thief out, they can't sue the board, and all you're left like little Jack Horner in a corner sucking all your thumb. Don't complain. Say we vote in Kamala till we dead, or until she dies, whichever one comes first. Look, people, I was supposed to be out of here since 1 o'clock. I have appointments, yes. What's that tell the man call election if he's so confident? Well, they are a bunch of jokers, yes. It's the same song all they were singing between 2015 to 2020. Who is this person? I can't see the name. To Darren Red. Same song all they were singing. Call election. Call election. And they call election. and Kamala get her backside washed again, Darren, or you forget that? You just woke up, Rip Van Winkle, you were sleeping? Study David Lee, eh? We want to know what's going on with David Lee. Will he be wearing silver bracelets soon? Well, I ain't want to talk about David Lee. But in the words of my friend, I will leave it there for this week. All right? So, folks, thank you. As I told you all, unfortunately, we are unable to take your calls today, and we are still off air, I believe, on account of the fact that the copper cables that are attached to the transmitter that afford us the opportunity to transmit. Vandals have hit those copper cables. And you see, when the government said they want to put a ban on the export of scrap iron and so on for a 6-month period, they run out themselves. Talk about, oh, the government wicked, and they want to put people on the breadline, and now we will see an increase in crime because people, all of that nonsense. But they're frustrating people, distressing people, right? Now money has to be spent to fix that problem. In the meantime, the station is off air. When they steal the manhole covers, everything that they steal, and to listen to Mr. Ferguson talk about, oh, the government this and the government that, and what is their solution? They're going to put a hotline in place for people to call and report. The fact of the matter is that the reason why these guys continue to steal stuff is because there is a market for it, and because you all are accepting it. No, you're not asking any questions when it come in, right? You're all just accepting it. And if it is that you all had put down your foot and said, we're not taking it, then we wouldn't continue to have this problem. But all over the country, they're distressing people. Whether it is that you pick up your phone, no dial tone, or whatever the hell the case is, right? Driving down the street in the neighborhood and all of these copper lines just hanging down, making the place look nasty and stink. But nothing of substance. They can offer no solution of substance. But when the government says, this is what we are going to do, because we need to crack down on it, because it's becoming totally ridiculous now. The only thing I can talk about is how much people could be out of work, and now we'll see upsurge in crime because all of the people who working in this industry and so on. No, you all need to fix all yourself. Regulate yourself. And if you can't come with a better solution, the government will find one. We don't want anybody to lose their jobs, but at the end of the day, you all need to fix the problem. Because it's because of the monster that you all created is why we are where we are today. But typical Chinese don't like to take responsibility because everything is the government and the government and the government. Anyway, people, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. It was very nice. I enjoyed being with you all today. What's that, Roger? I mash all of you with facts. Roger, it's what facts? What facts you offered? Let me tell you one fact. Based on just what you put here, you need to invest in a dictionary, my friend. Either that or you need to get remedial English classes because your grammar is atrocious. Yeah. So, folks, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, the rest of your weekend. Join Sharon and Bruce in the morning for another edition of Titans of Democracy. And as always, God's willing. Well, Sammy John said, PNM supporters stole the cables. Okay, Sammy. So the PNM supporters stole the cables and it's UNC businessmen that are accepting it. UNC businessmen encouraging them. Because remember, let's say black people, the PNM is a black people party and black people do our business. So who they selling it to? Can't be a black businessman, eh? So it's not PNM businessmen buying it and encouraging the foolishness. It's UNC businessmen. So maybe you should have a chat with your UNC businessman, Sammy. Tell them stop accepting stolen material. Because you know what they say, the upholder is worse than the thief. The upholder is worse than the thief, Sammy. Yeah? Right. Gail Ochoa, thank you very much, Gail, to Maureen Toussaint, and all the rest of you all. Niabo Isaac, Angie, Brisbane, Bascom, Teresa Joseph, Carol Mayers, Alison Samuel, hey Alison, Teresa Joseph, and the rest of you all. Yes. So we'll chat again on Tuesday. God's willing. Yeah. Well, I'll deal with the substantive issue that I intended to treat with today. So enjoy the rest of it, and till Tuesday, join Bruce and Sharon in the morning, right?